Imagine you're a writer and you find out the news that your TV show has just been bought by a network. Then you turn to check your bank account and see that it's negative and you won't even be able to make rent this month. How does this happen? How does an established writer in Hollywood not make ends meet? Well, this is because the studios and networks are eliminating traditional writers' rooms and creating a gig economy out of the writers in Hollywood, whereby writers get paid an hourly rate. This is not right, and this is why the WGA passed the vote to strike this week, with 98% of its members approving the strike. The last time the WGA went on strike was 15 years ago in 2007, and the strike lasted 100 days, costing the California economy $2.1 billion. And today in my video, I want to cover why the negotiations between the AMPTP and WGA fell through after 6 weeks of talks. I want to talk about why this matters to the rest of us as a society and make my prediction of why I think this strike will not end anytime soon. And I will review how long I think the strike will take. This video is going to be a little different than my other videos because in this video, I will not be staying neutral. I will actually be sharing what my thoughts are on this strike and why I think we need to support the writers of the WGA strike.
Out to support the writers. Without the writers, we have nothing.
So why am I qualified to talk about this? I'm Tyler, the Hollywood attorney. I have been an attorney in Hollywood for over 15 years, having worked at companies like Disney, Skydance, and BuzzFeed. I have probably negotiated and papered over 100 writer deals. And I have been the lead attorney on 15 feature films. I became an entertainment attorney because I wanted to protect creatives, especially writers, because writers are the heart and soul of these stories, of the TV shows and movies that we love. Without them, we wouldn't have the characters and the worlds that they have built. They are the heart and soul of humanity, and we really need to protect them. So what happened exactly? Negotiations between the AMPTP, which stands for the Alliance of Motion Picture and TV Producers, broke down after 6 weeks of negotiations between the WGA and the AMPTP, which represents 350 companies in Hollywood, which consists of all of the major studios and networks as well as smaller production companies. Basically, the WGA is asking for living wages for its members. It's asking for the curbing of these mini rooms and to preserve writers' rooms. It wants some clear parameters around the use of AI, and it wants increases to the minimum basic agreement, which is the MBA. It doesn't seem to make much sense because Hollywood seems to be making more and more money. Profits for the film and TV industry has increased from $5 billion in 2000 to 28 to 30 billion in the last 5 years. Spending on content has increased from 5 billion in 2019 all the way up to 19 billion in 2023, with Netflix making up the bulk of that spending. If so much is being spent on the creation of productions, why are writers not getting a living wage? This is something I have noticed in my own work as an attorney on both sides, the company side and the talent side. I will say when we have a film production, the bulk of the money for each budget goes to the lead actors, and the writers get a very small percentage of that. Sometimes the high level actors could get 1 to 2% of the budget, but lower level writers tend to get a much smaller amount. And writers are often asked to do rewrites at a reduced rate. Companies are always trying to save money on their budgets, right? Especially on the independent film side. One of the biggest issues facing the WGA and its members is the fact that writers' rooms used to be much more common, and it would guarantee a writer a stable, guaranteed number of weeks he or she would be employed. But more and more companies are using these mini rooms where they hire writers to come right before the season starts. Whereas in the past, writers' rooms would be in place for the entirety of the season. Basically, the studios don't want 13-week guarantees because they'd rather pay writers on a daily rate because it saves them money. But this makes it very hard for a writer to be able to pay rent or have a stable source of income. And this is a problem that the writers who create some of the biggest shows on TV cannot even pay their rent.
Screenwriters deserve fair royalties for their work.
Let's not forget that the WGA and SAG both have their basic agreements expiring at the end of June, and both unions are about to enter into negotiations as well. And they are fully in support of their colleagues at the WGA. It doesn't seem like anyone is disputing this fact that the studios and networks make a lot of money, and they just don't seem to want to share this money with the WGA members. And I've always felt very strongly that writers always got a little bit screwed. You know, they get back end that's defined as net proceeds, which is basically at the very, very bottom of the waterfall, usually the last spot, which means they never see back end. And writers are the heart of movies and TV shows. Without the writers, there would be no TV show or movies. So I am in full support of this strike. I do believe that it is not unreasonable for writers to have a living wage. Writers are not going to be able to write or make a living. So the results of the 2007 strike was that we saw the boom of reality TV shows. And that is why they are so big now, was because there were no writers to write. And so reality TV show basically had its birth at that time. And at the time, non-WGA writers also were able to be picked up and got their break in the business because they were able to write when their counterparts who were WGA members couldn't write. Now, this is something that you will not find in any of the articles, because I have heard about this internally, that the WGA has told non-WGA writers that if they work for a struck company during the strike, they're totally allowed to, but if they try to apply for membership after the fact, the WGA will most likely deny them. This has not been confirmed by the WGA, but this is what I've heard in the industry. And how long do I think the strike will last? I think it will last longer than 8 weeks. And I found this amazing article from Vulture featuring entertainment attorney by the name of Jonathan Handel. He points out a great fact, which is the fact that there are many overall deals right now at some of the biggest streamers and TV companies of the likes like Shonda Rhimes that are in the hundreds of millions. And those deals have not been incredibly profitable for the companies. So in these overall agreements, there is a provision called force majeure, which is when an act of God or union strike happens for more than 8 weeks, and each contract could vary, but mostly it's 8 weeks. Then the company can terminate that overall deal. So the companies and studios are actually incentivized for this strike to go on for at least 8 weeks so that it can do some house cleaning of overall deals that have not worked out for them. And this issue of AI. Now, AI is a huge issue for the WGA. It wants parameters in place to make sure that studios and networks cannot use a writer's screenplay and do rewrites and polish using AI. Or, you know, another worry is that the companies are going to use AI as a loophole during the strike to have potentially an AI program write a script, and after the strike is done, maybe just have a writer come in and do a polish or a rewrite of a piece of work that an AI program has written. And the WGA wants parameters that this does not happen, because this could eliminate a lot of writers' jobs. And this is a worry that we all have. I've been working on an AI video. Since the strike has occurred, I'm going to incorporate the challenges facing not only artists in light of Midjourney and DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, but also writers in light of ChatGPT 4. I think the next few months are going to be incredibly stressful for everyone, the writers included, the companies whose series are going to be halted. Remember, broadcast TV, although has lost its market share, still makes a lot of money. And typically fall season starts staffing up in June and July. So if this strike goes on for several months, it could really impact the fall season of broadcast TV. It could potentially affect productions of films. Now, films won't be affected in the same way because films take a lot longer to produce. But if there are films that are about to go, they might be waiting to start production. Scripts that have been purchased and have been optioned can continue. But what happens when you're shooting a movie and an actor says, you know, these lines don't work for me, call the writer to come rewrite this? They can't call the writer. Now, some directors do write. They can do quick polishes of the script, but most of the time you really need the writer to come in and do rewrites. I'm really glad the WGA is protecting its members. If you're a WGA writer and you would like to come on my channel and talk about your experience and maybe cover details I haven't covered here, please let me know. If you haven't noticed, I have not agreed to work with a sponsor or a brand on my YouTube channel. I've been trying to keep the sponsors off, but I am trying to grow my Instagram page so that I could potentially work with brands there and keep brands off my YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked out my Instagram page, please check it out at The Hollywood Attorney. And I share a lot of my behind the scenes, my everyday life, pulling back the veil about what it's like to really work in Hollywood, because I started my channel wanting to pull back the veil and show that what you see in Hollywood on screen and in social media aren't always real. Because you know what? On film and TV, we have amazing writers who create a work of fiction. It's beautiful and it fills our soul, and we should in turn take care of them, because writers and creatives are the heartbeat of humanity. This is Tyler, the Hollywood Attorney. Remember, you were born perfect and we just forget. I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye.